You have a choice right now. The comfortable kind that keeps you invisible, or the bold kind that makes people listen without you ever raising your voice. That choice is influence. Not the sly, shadowy manipulation that bends people to your will. Not charisma as a costume you put on when you need followers. Real influence is the quiet force that comes from clarity, value, and integrity. If you want power that lasts, you must learn to move people by being worthy of being followed. Here's the first truth you need to accept. Manipulation is a shortcut with a long-term price. It can buy agreement, but it never earns trust. It gets you the answer you want today and costs you the relationships that matter next. Real influence flips the equation. You give value first. You invite. You create space. And people come because they choose to. That's how leaders who endure do it. That's how anyone who wants to build something real must do it. So, let's explode a myth before we get comfortable with platitudes. Many people think influence means control. They imagine levers, scripts, and clever phrases that make others behave. That's not influence. That's coercion dressed up as skill. Influence is not about winning an argument. It's about helping people change their minds or behavior because they want to, not because they feel trapped. It's persuasion, anchored in respect, and that is a muscle you can train. Start with your mindset. You influence by adding value, not taking advantage. Shift your question from, how do I get them to do what I want, to, how can I make their life better if they follow this? That shift is seismic. It moves you from manipulative tactics to real contribution. People sense that shift instantly. They smell the difference between a handshake from someone who wants something and a handshake from someone who wants to help. Your presence will begin to do the heavy lifting. Next, understand that influence begins with authenticity. People are drawn to what is real. If you try to be someone else, the mask settles into your face and the words lose weight. You don't need to fake confidence. Show up as a person who is learning, who admits mistakes when necessary, who owns both wins and failures. That vulnerability is not weakness, it's credibility. Earl Nightingale used to speak about cause and effect. Your actions create your reputation. If your actions are consistent and honest, influence follows. Listen like your influence depends on it, because it does. Listening is not waiting for your turn to speak. It's an active skill. When you listen, you gather the map of what matters to someone else. Their fears, their ambitions, their non-negotiables. Once you know that, your words land differently. A single phrase that matches someone's inner truth will open doors that 1,000 clever lines won't. Dale Carnegie taught that people like to feel important, but the way you make them feel important is by paying attention to what they actually say. Focus on the person, not your outcome. Language matters, but not in the obvious way. Influence isn't about fancy rhetoric, it's about clarity. Say what you mean. Use plain sentences. Complexity is a shield for the insecure. When your idea is simple and clear, others can carry it. Complex language buries meaning and gives listeners a reason to defer. Influence wants to be carried. Make it portable. Use metaphors sparingly and with purpose. Use stories that show rather than arguments that lecture. Presence is a strange, powerful tool. It's not a trick. Presence is how you use silence, eye contact, and timing to create a field that people step into. Presence says, "This matters." It doesn't scream, it brings gravity. You build presence by being prepared and by being emotionally regulated. When you are calm under pressure, others unconsciously trust you. They mirror your composure. That's biological. Your steadiness becomes a gift to others and a magnet for influence. Let's be tactical for a second. Influence grows when you build small wins into a track record. Ask for tiny commitments first. When people say yes to small things, they're more likely to say yes to larger things later. This isn't manipulation when the larger thing is genuinely valuable to them. It's a path of alignment. Think of influence as an investment. Small deposits build trust capital. Over time, those deposits let you propose big changes with credibility. Also, give before you take. Show appreciation, recognize effort, and lend attention without immediate return. These are micro gifts that cost you little and signal that your aim is communal success. People remember who saw them and who didn't. Real influence is often the residue of consistent generosity. Napoleon Hill wrote about the power of clarity of purpose. Part of that clarity is a purpose that includes others. If your goal improves others' lives, your influence will be stronger and more sustainable. Beware of flattery and false praise. They are cheap and corrosive. Authentic praise points to specifics. What exactly did the person do that mattered? Generic compliments feel like currency. Specific praise feels like a mirror. When you name the action, you show you were watching. That builds respect. Respect builds influence. Another overlooked element, make your requests precise. Vagueness is the enemy of follow-through. If you want someone to act, give them a clear next step. People want direction when you ask for action. Ambiguity is an escape route for both of you. Say what you want, why it matters to them, and what the first step looks like. That clarity reduces friction and increases the chance of alignment. Now, courage. Influence without courage is empty. You will be refused. You will be misunderstood. That's part of the work. Standing for something means some people will step away. That's okay. Influence is not popularity, it's alignment. Your job is to attract the people who resonate with your values and to be honest with those who don't. That honesty preserves your integrity and builds a tribe that trusts you. There's a moral backbone here. Influence should never be a tool for exploitation. The moment you use techniques to bend others to selfish ends, you cross a line. You become, in effect, what you once resisted. Keep integrity at the center. Ask whether your influence is improving lives or merely extracting value. If it's the latter, stop. Recalibrate. Finally, practice. Influence is a skill like any other, incremental, messy, and rewarding when you keep at it. Start with small interactions, a better meeting, a more attentive conversation, a clearer ask. Notice what changes. Iterate. Keep a mental ledger of small failures and small successes. Over months, you'll see a pattern. Over years, you will have a reputation that precedes you. You're not trying to be liked by everyone, you're trying to be trusted by the people who matter for the work you want to do. Influence without manipulation is your ticket to that trust. It's not easy. It requires discipline, honesty, and practice. But here's the promise. When you lead with value, listen with attention, and speak with clarity, you'll find doors open that used to be closed. People will follow not because they were persuaded, but because they chose to. Write a comment and tell me about the last time you changed someone's mind. What did you do differently? What happened? Part 2. Trust is the currency of influence. If Part 1 was about shifting your intention from control to contribution, this part is about how trust actually forms, the invisible architecture under every decision someone makes to follow you. Trust isn't a feeling you can conjure with a good speech. It's the sum of small, consistent signals that say, this person is reliable, honest, and aware of my needs. If you want to influence without manipulating, you must become a trust builder. Start by understanding how reputations are made. Reputation is not what you say you are. It's what people say about you when you aren't in the room. That means your private behavior matters more than your public words. It means consistency is a louder statement than charisma. You can perform greatness once, but reliability repeats. People bet on patterns, not promises.
So design your actions to produce a pattern worth betting on. There are three mechanics that create trust: predictability, competence, and goodwill. Predictability means people know what to expect from you. Competence means you can deliver. Goodwill means you care about their outcome, not just yours. Work on each. Show up on time. Finish what you start. Admit when you don't know something, and then find the answer. Throw in small acts that reveal good intentions: a follow-up note, a prompt thank you, a piece of credit for someone else. These are low-cost moves that pay compound interest in relationships. Listening is the foundation of goodwill. Too many people think influence is about talking louder or more cleverly. The real power move is to be the rare person who listens. When you listen well, you signal respect and gather information. But listening is more than silence. It's active calibration. Repeat back the essence of what someone said in your own words. Ask a clarifying question that shows you were tracking the nuance. People don't just want to be heard, they want to be understood. When someone feels understood, resistance drops and curiosity grows. That's the doorway to influence. Your inner dialogue shapes how you listen. If you're composing your rebuttal while the other person speaks, you miss the map of their motivation. Slow down. Hold space. Let their words land. You'll notice small cues: the words they repeat, the values they defend, the pain they sidestep. Those cues tell you where to place your next sentence so that it lands as help, not pressure. Transforming your speech is less about persuasion tricks and more about alignment. Replace "you should" with "one way to look at this is." Replace "do this" with "what if we tried?" You're shifting from directive to invitational language. Invitations respect autonomy. They say, "Here's an option that could serve you." People respond to options much more willingly than to orders. Dale Carnegie taught the importance of making the other person feel important, and nothing makes someone feel more important than being offered choice and agency. The tone you use matters as much as the content. Calm, measured, and curious tones invite inspection. Urgent, clipped, or hyperbolic tones trigger defensiveness. Practice phrasing that centers the other person's interest. "I'm wondering what would happen if. I noticed you mentioned X. How important is that to you?" These small shifts sound soft, but they are strategic. They reduce the instinct to defend and increase the instinct to explore. Another powerful tool: mirror and match. Not as mimicry, but as empathy. If someone speaks slowly and carefully, slow down. If they value data, bring data. If they value emotion, tell a story that connects. This is not manipulation when your goal is mutual understanding. It's social intelligence. Your flexibility demonstrates respect, which increases your influence. Reputation also grows through accountability. When things go wrong, the instinct for many is to hide or rationalize. Take the opposite route. Name the mistake, accept responsibility, propose correction. Nothing builds trust faster than someone who owns the problem and works to resolve it. This is ethical leadership in micro. It signals that you are trustworthy under stress. People bet on leaders who don't escape blame. They bet on people who fix things and keep faith with others. A subtle requirement of trust: manage your secrets. People who are overly transactional, who reveal or weaponize other people's vulnerabilities, lose influence fast. If someone confides in you, protect that confidence. Confidentiality is a superpower of influence. It says, "I'm safe to rely on." It's the invisible deposit that grows trust over time. Now let's talk about boundaries. Yes, you can be influential and set limits. In fact, strong boundaries increase your influence. When people know what you will and won't do, they can rely on you. Boundaries prevent overcommitment and the erosion of your integrity. Say no to what doesn't align with your mission. That clarity attracts the people who resonate with your purpose and repels those who won't be helped by your work. Influence is selective. It should be. Create rituals that signal reliability. Weekly check-ins, concise summaries after meetings, visible progress markers. Rituals are predictable anchors for others. They reduce anxiety about collaboration and make people more willing to invest trust. Over time, these small rituals compound into a culture of dependability that reflects on you. Don't underestimate the role of fairness. People are expert detectors of double standards. If you apply rules to others that you don't apply to yourself, your influence dissolves. Equity in how you treat people, giving credit, sharing burden, acknowledging effort, cements loyalty. Fairness is a moral engine of sustained influence. Finally, remember the long game. Trust is not a short sprint, it's a marathon. Quick wins based on tricks evaporate. Real influence that survives scrutiny is built on a history of consistent behavior. Napoleon Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose. When your purpose is clear and serves others, your influence becomes a force that attracts resources, allies, and momentum. Your job is to choose a purpose that includes other people's good and to live it out every day. This is practical. Pick one relationship where you want to grow influence. Write down 3 small, concrete actions you will take this week to build trust. Show up early. Follow up with a thoughtful summary. Name one thing you appreciate about the other person. Do those 3 things and watch how the dynamic shifts. Influence starts in the small and then scales. Now, it's your turn. Comment below with one relationship you want to deepen. What's one small action you'll take this week to build trust? Be specific. The smartest action is the one you will actually do.
Part 3. Charisma is a skill, not a birthright. Hear that and let it change how you approach every conversation. Too many people treat charisma like a lottery ticket. Either you have it or you don't. That's comforting for the insecure, because if it's fixed, you don't have to try. But it's a lie. Charisma is a set of behaviors and choices you practice. How you listen, how you move, how you name what matters. When you sharpen those choices, your presence becomes magnetic. Start by understanding what really draws people. It's not surface-level charm. It's the ability to make others feel recognized and safe. When you make someone feel like they matter, they relax, they lean in, and they become open. That's emotional craftsmanship. You don't need bigger gestures. You need to be precise with small ones. A single well-timed question, a pause that lets someone finish, a name used correctly. These little calibrations compound into presence. Emotional intelligence is the engine behind charisma. It's not fluff, it's accuracy. You must read the room, not to manipulate it, but to serve it. That means noticing the emotional temperature and adjusting in real time. If people are defensive, lower the volume. If they are tired, shift to clarity and ease. If they are excited, amplify focus. Emotional intelligence lets you move from reaction to response. It's the difference between being a source of drama and being a source of direction. You build this capacity by naming emotions aloud in calm ways. When someone is upset, say what you observe. You look frustrated. Tell me what's most on your mind. Naming reduces chaos because people can't argue with what's obvious. It also signals you're tuned in. That act alone can change the trajectory of a conversation. Earl Nightingale talked about clarity as power. Emotional clarity is no different. When you make feelings visible,
You give people a map back to reason. Another pillar, explain the why. People follow reasons more than orders. If you only tell people what to do, you get compliance at best. If you show why it matters, you get ownership. When you explain the purpose behind an ask, how it connects to values, outcomes, or meaning, you tap into motivation. Napoleon Hill emphasized the power of clear purpose. Use that here. People will carry your idea farther when they understand its force and its meaning. Practice telling short, vivid stories that illustrate the why. Story compresses belief into a memorable form. Use a quick example of someone who changed after a tiny shift, or a moment when a decision created disproportionate results. Stories stick. They travel. When you wrap a practical point in story, you give people an image they can repeat to themselves later, and that repetition is how influence internalizes. Presence also lives in your body. You cannot speak of charisma without owning your posture, your breath, your pacing. Slow down. Breath gives you space to choose your words instead of reflexively filling silence. When you slow your speech and lower the pitch slightly on key points, listeners pay closer attention. Use silence as punctuation. A well-placed pause gives listeners time to absorb and align. That silence is not empty, it's an invitation. Courageous calm is a superpower of influence. When others panic, your calm becomes a resource. That doesn't mean you never show intensity. It means you control when intensity is useful. Use urgency sparingly and only when it serves clarity. Otherwise, steady gravity is more persuasive than constant agitation. People follow those who make the uncertain feel winnable. Empathy without collapse is critical. Too many people conflate empathy with agreement. You can understand someone's pain and still hold a clear boundary or direction. Empathy gives you access to truth. Boundaries give you the ability to act on it. Practice the sequence. Empathize, then propose. I see why this feels risky. Here's a small step we can try that reduces the downside. Empathy opens doors. Good structure walks through them. Now, practical ways to train charisma and emotional intelligence. First, micro-presence exercises. In short interactions, a coffee line, a short call, practice giving undivided attention for 30 seconds. Make the other person feel like they are the center of your world for that moment. Notice how they shift. This trains your ability to be fully present under pressure. Second, rehearsal of purpose statements. Take a mission-sized idea you want people to follow and compress it into one sentence that answers who benefits, how, and why now. Practice saying that sentence until it lands easily. Clarity of mission is contagious. Dale Carnegie taught the art of concise persuasion. Use that economy to sharpen your statements. Third, emotional labeling practice. In everyday conversations, gently name an emotion you observe and ask a single clarifying question. You seem hesitant. What's the cost you're worried about? Do this 3 times this week. You'll be surprised how often people relax into clearer talk when you give them a verbal mirror. Fourth, controlled vulnerability. Share a short, honest detail about a mistake and what it taught you, but keep it brief and focused on the lesson. Vulnerability that is aimless can harm. Vulnerability with a purpose builds trust and models growth. This is how you become relatable without losing authority. Fifth, ritualize reflection. After important conversations, spend 5 minutes noting what landed and what didn't. Did someone stiffen? Which phrase opened a door? Over time, you'll collect patterns and refine your approach. Charisma is iterative. Small adjustments compound into a reliably powerful presence. Beware of the dark side. Charisma can seduce you into thinking style replaces substance. Always check your influence against outcomes. Are people better off after you acted? Influence must be judged by its results on others' well-being, not your follower count. If your presence produces short-term wins but long-term erosion, you've missed the point. Also, avoid performance for performance's sake. When you act like a leader only to be admired, you create distance. True charisma narrows the gap between you and others. It says, "I'm with you." Your goal is connection that produces action, not applause. Finally, understand that your presence scales through people. Invest in those who will replicate your integrity and competence. Train them, elevate them, give them space to lead. Influence that hoards power collapses. Influence that multiplies itself through others endures. Leadership, in its healthiest form, is a hand that lifts others, not a stage that elevates you. You can start now. Choose one routine to practice this week: a 30-second undivided attention exercise, a one-sentence mission statement you'll say every day, or 3 emotional labeling invitations in conversations. Do it daily for 5 days and watch your presence deepen. Comment below with which practice you'll start and the one relationship you'll apply it first. Tell me, what's the one vulnerability you'll share next time to build trust? And why does that feel hard for you?
Part 4. If you want influence that actually changes things, not just applause, then you need a toolkit. Simple, repeatable moves that work in the chaos of real life. Theory is nice. Practice wins. This part is about the concrete strategies you can start using today. Questions that open minds, tiny gifts that build loyalty, rhythms that create momentum, and ways to bring people together without pressure. Think of this as your field guide to honest persuasion. Start with questions. The right question is surgical. It locates resistance without bruising it. People defend positions. They rarely defend questions. Use questions to expose assumptions and invite exploration. Instead of telling someone they're wrong, ask, "What would happen if we tried the opposite for 1 week?" Or, "What's the smallest step that would move this forward without breaking anything?" Good questions do 2 things. They move people from posture to thinking, and they make them collaborators in the solution. When someone co-discovers an idea, they own it. That ownership is influence in action. Practice the why, then how rhythm. Lead with a crisp why this matters, why it matters to them, why now. Then offer one practical how, not 10 options, one clear first step. People can debate forever when given too many paths. Give them an attractive direction and a single low-friction step to try. This reduces paralysis and creates momentum. Remember, the easier the first step, the higher the chance of follow-through. Make micro-gifts part of your daily operating system. Micro-gifts are tiny, purposeful acts that signal you value someone's time or effort. A 90-second video note instead of an email. A public mention of someone's idea. A quick, "I noticed" message after a meeting. These are not manipulative bribes. They are recognition and attention packaged deliberately. Over months, they add up like compounding interest in relationships. People don't forget who saw them when others ignored them. Use framing to reduce resistance. Humans are loss-averse. The fear of losing weighs heavier than the promise of gain. Reframe proposals so you highlight what people keep, not just what they gain. Say, "This preserves what matters most and makes it easier," instead of, "We'll change how you do everything." Small language shifts calm defenses and open doors. Design experiments, not ultimatums. Propose a trial with clear parameters and a time box. Let's test this for 2 weeks with one team and measure X. Trials reduce risk and invite curiosity. If the trial works, you create proof. If it fails, you learn without long-term cost. People prefer a short experiment to an irreversible leap. When you structure change as a reversible experiment, you give people permission to try and to fail safely. Leverage social proof honestly. People follow demonstrable precedent. Show examples from peers or similar teams who succeeded. When possible, bring those examples forward in the person's world. A short case study, a two-sentence testimonial, a quick data point. Evidence reduces the abstract fear of change. But beware, social proof must be relevant. A story about a huge corporation won't move an independent creator. Relevance is the amplifier. Lower friction. The fewer decisions someone must make, the more likely they are to act. If you want collaboration, remove steps. Draft the email, propose the meeting time, outline the first agenda item. Make it easier to say yes than to no. Convenience is not manipulation when the outcome genuinely benefits both parties. It's smart design. Call out identity levers carefully. People act to stay consistent with their self-image. Link the action you want to a value they already hold. You've always been someone who protects quality. This step protects it at scale. When the request aligns with a person's identity, resistance drops. Use identity as a bridge, not a trap. Don't invent virtues, name the real ones you see.
Create public commitments when appropriate. When individuals commit publicly to a small action, psychological forces increase follow-through. A short, visible promise in a meeting or a public group nudges people to act because they want their actions to align with their words. But use this sparingly and ethically. Public pressure can backfire if the person isn't ready. The point is to invite accountability, not to shame. Show consequences with compassion. People rarely move for abstract moral reasons alone. They move when they can see the cost of inaction and the upside of change. Paint both pictures. What happens if nothing changes, and what improves if you try. Use concrete examples and timelines. When it's vivid, the path forward becomes less theoretical. When dealing with hard or resistant people, meet them where they are. Start by acknowledging the constraint they face. I hear that bandwidth is tight right now. Then propose a minimal ask that addresses that constraint. Sometimes the most persuasive move is saying, I don't expect you to change everything. Can we try this small piece that respects your limits? This reduces the emotional temperature and makes alignment possible. Use the bring one, let one rule in group settings. When proposing an idea, invite one visible supporter to articulate why it matters and ask one skeptic to list their top concern. That creates balance and signals you value both commitment and critique. It turns a pitch into a conversation and raises the intelligence of the decision. Normalize dissent as data. When people know dissent won't be punished, they share truth faster. Influence grows when you make critique useful, ask for it, reward it, and incorporate what's worth keeping. The goal is not to eliminate disagreement, but to turn it into a fuel source for better decisions. Build rituals that make the change visible. If you want a culture to shift, create a small recurring practice that embodies the change. A 5-minute What Worked segment at the end of meetings, a weekly customer story shared in a channel, a simple badge for people who tried an experiment. Rituals convert transient ideas into habits. They institutionalize the influence you want. Celebrate early and specifically. Recognize the first people who try something new in concrete ways. Public recognition, a short note, or a shared metric that improves becomes the social currency of change. People follow visible winners. Celebration turns a tiny win into social proof. Keep your requests ethical and reversible. A good influence strategy leaves people with agency. If your ask feels like coercion or removes options permanently, you're moving toward manipulation. Always provide an exit ramp, a way to opt out respectfully, or pause and reassess. When people know they can stop, they are more willing to start. Finally, track the smallest indicators of change and share them. Influence is a feedback loop. Measure 1 or 2 simple metrics and report them back. Even small progress builds momentum and fuels confidence. When people see a trend, their risk calculus shifts. They move from curiosity to commitment. Now, take a practical step. Pick one initiative you want to influence this week. Design a 3-step plan. One low-friction first ask, one micro-gift to build goodwill, and one visible sign of progress you'll share. Execute it, then come back and reflect. What moved? What didn't? Iteration is how strategies become craft. Write a comment with your 3-step plan and the one person you'll try it with. Be specific. What is your first low-friction ask? What micro-gift will you give? And what will you measure to show progress? And tell me, who is the hardest person in your circle to influence, and what one small change might make them listen to you?
Part 5. This is the part where everything either holds together or quietly unravels. You've learned how to invite, how to listen, how to build presence, how to move people with dignity. Now the question is simple and brutal. Can you keep integrity while you grow influence? Influence that lasts is not a technique you apply at scale. It is a mirror of who you are when no one's watching. If you want influence that multiplies, you must be the kind of person whose presence makes others better off. Start by protecting your inner compass. Influence without a compass drifts into persuasion for selfish ends. Ask yourself 3 nightly questions for the next week. Did I add value today? Whom did I serve? Where did I choose comfort over honesty? These are not moral lectures, they're operational checks. Over time, they calibrate your decisions toward contribution. Napoleon Hill talked about definiteness of purpose. Make your purpose include others' welfare, and your decisions become easier. Hold transparency as a working principle. When you're transparent about motives, constraints, and trade-offs, people trust the math behind your asks. Transparency is not total exposure. It's clarity about the key variables, why you want something, what's at stake, and what you're willing to risk. When you offer that map, you invite informed consent. People appreciate being trusted with truth. They rarely resent it. Clear motives shrink suspicion and grow commitment. Guard against the tiny corruptions. Corruption rarely arrives as a headline scandal. It starts with rationalizations. This small omission is fine. No one will notice. It's for a greater good. That's where integrity dies. Fight small rationalizations with small practices. Speak the full truth in one sentence. Credit the smallest contributor publicly, and decline one convenient shortcut this week. These micro-habits are the scaffolding of long-term credibility. Make your influence a mechanism for empowerment, not dependency. The worst kind of influence traps people in reliance on you. Real leaders teach others to lead. Whenever you persuade someone, ask, what skill, habit, or resource will they gain? Design every influence move so the person you're influencing leaves stronger, not emptier. Train them to make decisions without you. That's the ultimate legacy of honest influence. Balance being and doing. Too many people equate influence with output, more talks, more posts, more plans. Influence is also who you are in the quiet moments. Steadiness in stress, patience in progress, generosity in private. Schedule non-negotiable time each week to be, not to produce. Read, reflect, walk, and listen to people you wouldn't normally consult. Those unproductive hours refill your judgment and keep your influence human. Commit to feedback loops that include dissent. Surround yourself with people who will tell you the inconvenient truth and reward them for it. Create a red team culture where critique is welcomed and used. When people know they can challenge you without being punished,
decisions improve and loyalty deepens. Making critiques safe is a tactical advantage and an ethical one. Keep a public ledger of small promises. When you say you'll do something, return a call, update a doc, give feedback, record it, close the loop. The habit of keeping tiny promises builds a reputation that scales. People forget speeches, but remember whether you followed through. Your credibility is a deposit account that grows with every fulfilled promise. Recognize the power of exit integrity. Sometimes the most ethical move is to step back. If a project, team, or agreement misaligns with your core purpose, leave with dignity. Explain why, offer transition help, and ensure you minimize disruption. Loyalty to your principles doesn't require martyrdom, it requires clarity. When you exit well, you preserve your capacity to lead again. Be deliberate about who you let into your inner circle. Influence is contagious, both the good and the bad. Surround yourself with people who practice the standards you want to scale. Invest in mentors and peers who call you out and push you to be better. Invest in protégés who will carry your values forward. Your circle determines the second-order effects of your influence. Create rituals that keep you aligned. Simple practices, a weekly gratitude note, a public What I Learned post, a monthly check-in with 3 trusted peers act as guardrails. Rituals are not cosmetic, they are structural. They routinize reflection and accountability so your principles survive stress. When pressure rises, rituals remind you who you chose to be. Remember, the economics of reciprocity is long-term. Influence built by extraction collapses when the well runs dry. Build relationships where the primary currency is mutual value over time. Invest in people without expecting immediate returns. Time compounds generosity into loyalty. That's not naivety, it's leverage with ethics. Practice saying no in ways that preserve dignity. Refusing is part of influence management. A thoughtful no protects your focus and signals you won't dilute the commitments you already carry. Say no with appreciation and with an alternative when possible. I can't take this on now, and here's a smaller way I can help. Boundaries protect your capacity to do the things you said you would do. Watch out for identity drift. As your influence grows, people will assign you labels and expectations. Decide early what identity you accept and what you refuse. Do you want to be known as the fixer, the teacher, the challenger, the builder? Let that choice shape where you spend attention. Identity as a tool keeps your actions aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term applause. Keep your influence local and specific before you scale it. Test your values in real, messy contexts: a difficult meeting, a project at risk, a friend in crisis. If your principles work in the small, they'll hold in the large. Scaling without testing is a risk. Scale only after your practices survive pressure. Finally, leave a challenge for yourself. Pick one public act that embodies your influence ethic. It could be an honest case study of a failure and what you learned, a public correction you make, or a transparent report of progress on a team goal. Make it visible, keep it specific, and accept the discomfort of exposing real work. Influence seated in truth grows faster than influence seated in polish. Now it's your move. Comment below with one integrity ritual you will commit to for the next 30 days. Something specific you will do every week to protect your compass. Be concrete. What is it? When will you do it? And how will you measure that you kept it? Tell me one truth about your influence you've been avoiding. What will you do next to change that? If this series helped you sharpen your approach, hit subscribe and like. It keeps this work coming.